Good morning. My name is Eric Olson. I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs. It's my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker. However, before I do so, I need to acknowledge that Utah State University and Cache Valley and beyond sit on the ancestral lands of the Northwestern Shoshone tribe. And this was a special place to them, a spiritual place to them, before there was ever a university here. And so I think it's important for us as we walk this campus to know who walked here before. Darren Pearry is the tribal chairman of the Northwest Band of the Shoshone Nation. He's actually the third generation of Pearrys that I have been blessed to know. When I was a freshman at Utah State, I became acquainted with his grandmother, May Timbimbu Pearry, and she became a cherished friend. Later, I became acquainted with his father, Bruce Pearry, and consider him a friend as well. And it's my privilege and honor now to serve on the Board of Trustees of the American West Heritage Center with Darren. I cherish his friendship. You can read Darren's official bio in the program. I just want to say Darren is a teacher, a builder, a mediator, and a peacemaker. He works to create understanding and build consensus among individuals with opposing views, and he's very passionate about this. Please welcome Tribal Chairman Darren Pearry.
Wow, I can't believe that was me he was talking about. And those of you who know me know that. Before I get started, can I just tell you a couple other things about me? I'm not a rah-rah guy. If you're here for that, and I'm not going to make you stand up at the end of the day and just cheer because you're so motivated. I look at myself more as a storyteller. I've always said that, and I've learned over the years, that people always forget facts and figures about history and things. But you never forget how you felt when you hear a story. I'm, among many things, an eternal optimist. I believe it's better to invite everyone to the table to work together as a group and compromise, if that's what it takes to get things done. I'm a strong advocate for the LGBTQ community and others who have been marginalized by society. I believe we have a social responsibility to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. I'm fiscally responsible most of the time. I'm not a registered Democrat or a registered Republican, but I look for the good in those who want to represent me. I believe in God. I believe in a God of love and forgiveness. I believe in a creator who cares less about whether we're Mormon, Catholic, Lutheran, Baptist, or any other denomination, but one who cares more about whether we're good to a person and whether we treat everyone with love and respect. I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Oh wow, it's such a long thing now. But I probably relate more to my tatted up, coffee drinking Mormon friends. I try really hard not to judge. Please don't take my willingness to compromise as a sign of weakness. There are some things in this life that require that we draw a line. I believe in equal pay and equal rights for all. Do you know in my culture for thousands of years, our women always had rights? I believe the good people of Wellsville, if you haven't followed that, are not racist. But some of the citizens of that fine community's comments may make you think otherwise. I am a father. I'm a grandfather, a husband, and a friend to all. I have what I think is the greatest job in the world. I get to serve my people every day and tell a story that's seldom ever told. I am not a skier. I'm a snowboarder. I love adventure and then can often be found in the hills just east of our location today. So if you ever need a partner, call me. That's a little bit more about who I am. Tepiatse Nui. Welcome to the heart of Shoshone country. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. I am grateful for the foresightedness of President Cockett and the committee who organized this symposium. Because as we heard a few minutes ago, this country is in dire need of being able to come together and celebrate our differences. Before I begin my formal remarks, I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine. I met Bren Hill a few years ago. He is, among many things, a cowboy. Who would have thought? Not only that, though, he's a singer-songwriter. He travels the country performing at various events. He's always a staple at the National Cowboy Poetry Association gathering in Elko, Nevada. One of his greatest passions, and it's a passion that I share, is to keep the stories of the great American West alive. He is getting ready to release his 14th CD. And the song that I've asked him to sing this morning is called The River Ran Red, who he co-wrote with Rod Miller, who happens to be here and happens to be a USU graduate. This will be on his new CD. I could think of no better way to start a symposium about diversity and inclusion and coming together as different people than to invite a cowboy to come speak to us. So will you please welcome Bren Hill.
It's such an honor to be with you guys this morning. Such an honor always to be at Utah State University and among friends. And as Darren mentioned, this is a song that I had the privilege of really co-writing, and co-writing is a fancy word. What I did is I set a beautiful poem that told this story to music. That was sent to me by my friend and fellow author, Rod Miller, who, as Darren mentioned, is with us today. Thank you so much, Rod. Canteens freeze to ice, and horses stagger on 70 miles by dawn. Victory comes at a price. Drum beats pound, songs resound on cliffs above the riverbank. Dance to bring in an early spring and send the Great Spirit thanks. And the river ran red, rolling with the bodies of the dead, massacred on the bank the river bear. Blue-coated soldiers carried out their killing orders there, and the river ran red. Hoofs test the edge of the bluff ledge to the banks of the bear below, and the splash freezes quick and the ice floats thick in the black. The rivers flow before the sun, before night is done. Brass bugles sound the attack. Through Beaver Creek ravine rolled the killing machine, and there was no turning back. And the river ran red, rolling with the bodies of the dead, massacred on the banks of the river Bear. Blue-coated soldiers carried out their killing orders there, and the river ran red. No surrender, no quarter, now blood forever stains her shore. With bayonet and gun, when the work was done, 300 Shoshone breathed no more. And the river ran red, rolling with the bodies of the dead, and the river ran red.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. For thousands of years, our tribal elders would sit down with their children and tell them stories. These stories were always the same. There was never a word out of place. It had to be that way. It had to be accurate. Our children needed to hear those stories as their elders had heard those stories from their grandparents. Because as you know, in our culture, nothing is ever written down. I went through the same process with my beautiful grandmother, Maytimbu Pearry. She was the most gentle woman that I'd ever known. Her black hair with dark skin and deep creases told of a life of a loving, caring tribal elder. She was our historian. She was our storyteller. When she passed away a few years ago, it broke my heart. There's an old Indian saying that says, when an old Indian dies, a library burns. And that was never as true as it was about my grandmother. I remember she'd sit for hours and tell me stories about how the coyote stole fire or how the sun got its name. And then with reverence in her tone, she would relate the story of the massacre at Boa Ogai, where more than 400 of our people were massacred. As I grew older and attended school, I developed a great love for history. And then I suddenly realized something sitting in class one day. None of the stories that my grandmother told me are in our history books. How could this be? I'd always believed that historical events were an absolute. Events that transpired over time only had one conclusion. But as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that history is about perspective. Whose perspective? And then one day it became clear when I heard a quote that was attributed to Winston Churchill. And he said that history is always written by the victors. Well, that perfectly explains why Native American histories aren't in our history books today. This beautiful Cache Valley in northern Utah was home to my people. We lived here and died here for centuries. In the summer of 1847, something significant happened that changed our life forever. My third great-grandfather, Chief Sagwitch, received word that there was a group of white, I call them immigrants, making their way towards the Salt Lake Valley. And on July 31st of that same year, Sagwitch met with those first group of pioneers. They were different from the trappers and mountain men who had frequented the areas, who only stopped long enough to trade for their wares. I think that Sagwitch probably sensed that difference and then thought, how was he going to navigate these waters of change? Two different people who lived two different lifestyles coming together. On the night of January 27th, in 1863, there was an old medicine man by the name of Tindup. He had a dream, and in his dream, he saw his people being killed by pony soldiers. He hurried and woke everyone up of his dream that night, and he told everyone that they should leave the area that night. There were many families who believed the dream of Tindup and moved with him and his family. Thus, their lives were spared. 2 days later, on January 29th, Colonel Patrick E. Connor and his command of California volunteers from Camp Douglas, Utah, attacked a sleeping Indian village in the early morning hours of the day. By the time he was finished, more than 400 of my people were massacred at the hands of civilization. The river truly ran red that day. This would become the largest massacre of Native Americans in the history of the United States, and it happened just miles from here. Have you ever had a memory that sneaks out of your eye and rolls down your cheek? I have that all the time when I think about the massacre of my people. My grandmother would always tell me, if you're there at just the right time in the evening, you can sit and you can hear the cries of the little ones crying for their mothers. You don't have to see things as they were to know that a terrible injustice had taken place. You can feel it. I want you to know that history isn't always neat and tidy, like that of the Wellsville sham battle, which is a mock battle between the Mormon settlers and other settlers dressed up as the local Indians that they reenact every year for Founders Day. The problem is my people were always portrayed as savages and cruel, reduced to the Hollywood version of the red man. And sometimes history can be dark and hurtful, like that of the massacre at Boa Ogai. I want you to know that bad things happen to people. Bad things happen to individuals. Bad things happen to groups. But I also want you to know that how we respond to those will determine our character. I want you to know that we as a tribal nation have chosen to forgive, but that doesn't mean we need to forget. I have learned that as you forgive, you in no way change the past, but you sure do change your future. Take a look around you this morning. We are as varied and colorful as the beautiful field of wild flowers, each bringing with us our own individual sets and skill sets and characteristics. As you look around, I hope you can truly see each other and find the good in what you see. We need to be able to see through each other's eyes. When that happens, the possibilities are powerful, and the ability to collaborate are endless. This past August, I had the opportunity to meet with a very good friend of mine, the Attorney General of Utah, Sean Reyes. I arrived at the appointment some 30 minutes early, which is a habit of mine. So I sat outside in the Capitol Rotunda and waited for our meeting. As I was sitting there, the Attorney General's Chief of Staff noticed me when he was walking by and asked me if I wanted to go in the Attorney General's office to observe something. I eagerly agreed and found myself in the back of his room and watched as the Attorney General of Utah welcomed and had a conversation with the governors of Afghanistan. To me, they looked exactly like I thought they would. My heart quickened as I thought about all of those things that I had seen on TV or heard about in the media. Towards the end of that short meeting, the Attorney General looked up and noticed me standing in the back of the room, and then said through the interpreter that they would now have the opportunity to meet a real live Indian chief of the first peoples of this country. As I walked forward and greeted each of those 8 governors from the Afghan provinces, my fear and anxiety seemed to fade away. As my eyes looked into their eyes, I began to feel a love and respect that only comes when you get close. When we get close to someone, fear and uncertainty and anxiety tends to fade away. What I learned that afternoon is that it's hard to hate up close. When we see all of the Creator's children the same, we will begin to appreciate the diversity that we all bring to the table as we seek a way to approach those who may seem to be different. I hope that we can try and not have any preconceived sets of ideas about them like I did the Afghan leaders. Try and see the person and not the color or the gender or the field of expertise. See them for who they truly are, as an equal, rather than someone who appears to be different. Society wants to divide us up into those in-between spaces, those who are biracial or bicultural, multi-ethnic. Not this, but certainly not that. I want you to know that if you fall into one of those categories like I do, that you are not alone. There are many of us who walk this tension together. Stand strong. The differences that we all bring can become the strength that we can all one day gain from each other. Situations like I experienced with the Afghan leaders gave me a chance to grow as a person and gave me a chance for a new approach and a new beginning. I hope we all take the opportunity, when presented, to learn from one another. As we educate ourselves, we begin to create a space that will allow us to have honest and open discussions, that will allow us to not only talk about those things that make us different, but also talk about the things that we have in common. Gandhi said, "Our greatest ability as humans is not to change the world, but to change ourselves." One day, a young girl in 2nd grade asked me, "How do you become a chief?" So I told her this story. When a young Shoshone boy or girl performs an act of service or kindness, or does something nice for a friend or tribal family, that boy or girl is awarded an eagle feather by the chief or medicine man. I then asked her, what if that boy or girl kept doing nice things and kept serving those around him or her for the rest of their life? What would happen? She was excited and she said, well, they would get more eagle feathers. And I said, you're right. And then one day, as those children were now young adults and adults, the chief would call everyone together as he was nearing the end of his life. And he would say, show me your eagle feathers. And it was that person who was able to show more eagle feathers than another person. They were made the chief. The chief wasn't always the one who was the bravest or the strongest. The chief was always the one that lived a life full of service and had compassion for those around him. We all have the ability to change ourselves. We all have the ability to become a chief in our respective fields. My grandmother would tell me for centuries that no one would ever want to hear our story. She then went on to say that one day you are going to have to make them listen. As we strive to be inclusive to those around us, we need to be able to hear others, especially those who seldom have a voice. If we make a concerted effort to hear those who are marginalized, who the world considers the other, and if our focus is to let them share their hopes and their dreams and their pains, this will allow all of us to gain a greater understanding of them and will go a long way towards healing decades of wounds and in the end heal ourselves. In my culture, one of the most sincere forms of respect is when you listen to what others have to say. I have learned a great deal over the many years as I've sat down with our old tribal elders and other people and listened. I listened to their wisdom. I listened to their experiences. I listened to the life lessons that they have already lived, and I try to learn. We would do well to do the same with our elders and friends, with our strangers and peers. Listening allows us to build a strong relationship with one another. Our ability and commitment to listen attentively will also help us in our professional relationships. Our personal and professional relationships that we have one with another can be a bridge to a kinder and more inclusive society. One day, an old Indian chief was teaching his grandson about life. He said that a fight is going on inside of me, to his grandson. It's a terrible fight between two wolves. One wolf is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, false pride, and ego. And then he said, the other wolf is good. He is joy. He is peace. He is love. He is serenity. He is humility. He is kindness. He has empathy. He is generous. He has truth, compassion, and faith. And then he said, this same fight is going on inside of you and every person. The grandson thought for a minute and then asked his grandfather, so which wolf is going to win? And the old chief simply replied, the one that you feed. I hope we are feeding our minds and souls with goodness. My heart was broken this past week when I heard of the senseless shooting of the University of Utah woman. And then again later with the senseless shooting of those people practicing their religion in a synagogue. Things like that can't happen. We as a society are too good for that. We need to do better. Let us do all that we can to spread love and not hate. Spread the kind of love that awakens the soul, that makes us reach for more, that plants fire in our hearts and brings peace to our minds. That is the kind of love that the world needs today from each of us. Love, kindness, forgiveness. I see you. I hear you. I respect you. These affirmations and others like them are what I call medicine words. As a tribal leader, my hope is that we can speak medicine words, not only to each other, but to our youth. Words that bless, inspire, and empower. When we speak medicine words, we build unity and we strengthen our culture and our nation. When we love one another, it allows us to heal from the wounds that we often don't see. Gandhi said again, I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the highest source. I salute that source in you. Let us all work together for unity and peace. In closing, can I just share with you an old Shoshone prayer? O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives all to the world, hear me. I come before you, one of your many children. I am small, and I am weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me talk in beauty, and make my eyes even behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things that you have made, my ears to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may know the things that you have taught my people, the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength, not to be superior to my brothers, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so that when life fades as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Can I issue just one challenge for you today as we meet together and spend all day with one another? Take the opportunity to introduce yourself to 5 people today that you would normally stay away from. Shake their hand, introduce yourself, and then listen and become friends. And let's begin to knock down those barriers that tend to keep us apart. Thank you for having me. I hope you get something out of the conference today, and I hope we can all learn from each other. Thank you.